Why do I have this fan? I don't know, it just magically appeared. But here is a 52-inch Hunter Highbury ceiling fan. So, long story short, this came out of a house near me at an estate sale. So, it was installed in the kitchen and was in horrible shape. Like, physically it was in good shape, I guess you can say, but it was covered in grease. The bearings were shot, and the capacitor was dead, pretty much. I mean, it spun a little bit, but it was at the end of its life. It barely spun at all on high speed, even with no blades. I never even put blades on before I replaced it, because it was shot when I plugged it in and tested it, but it came with a remote control, and the receiver's up in the canopy. The bearings are still not perfect. I don't replace bearings in these Hunter motors because I feel like it's very likely to go wrong. So I added oil. It made it a lot better. And now they just make a hissing noise, which I hate, but it's better than it was. So I tried to make this fan the greatest shape as it could possibly be, and because I'm going to try to sell it locally. Because I don't think any collector's going to buy this thing. I'm trying to be kind of picky with it to make it look as good as possible to get most money out of it on Facebook or whatever. I even went to a Habitat and bought these light bulbs. I got 2 of these boxes, and I'm just trying to make it look as good as possible, and that's kind of the reason I did that. So here's the light. Well, yeah, they're dim. Well, they won't be anymore. Now these light bulbs are obnoxiously bright, but I guess you can say they work. And of course you could always change them. But we're going to start on low speed, which is this button. This fan has 0 grease. I mean, everything was absolutely covered in grease when I got this. Everything. The top of the blades, the bottom of the blades, light shades, motor, canopy even. I mean, this thing was pretty much constructed out of grease. It took forever to clean it. And it took a lot of detail, I guess you could say. Like, I took a little brush, I used WD-40 to clean it. I used WD-40 to clean it, and then I used a little brush to get around the small areas. I even cleaned all the screws, because they were also a greasy mess. The bearings are already making hissing noises, but they're not that audible on low. So let's pick it up to speed 2. And I think now is the point where the camera may start to pick up the noise. Even those pull chain fobs, if you can see them, even they were covered in grease. If you ever want to clean tough grease off a fan, just use WD-40 because that stuff is a miracle. That cuts through grease like it's not even there. So, let's bring it up to high speed, which is this button. So the bearings are audible, but they're not that bad at all. When I first put this fan up, they were pretty loud as far as the hissing goes. So what I ended up doing is I let this fan run for a long time, for days in a row, weeks in a row, to help the bearings, I guess you can say, digest the oil, to quiet them down a little bit, which helped big time. So it's basically just getting those miles on those bearings pretty much. And here's the light. Now the funny thing about this, so I turn the light on the remote. Now if I do this and then try to turn it back on, it won't turn back on with the chain. You have to turn it on again with the remote. And it's the same thing with the fan too. Shut it off. Now if you look, it's got these weird little spots. I don't know what that is, but I tried so hard to remove those spots, but I mean, forget it. They were not coming off no matter what. I even tried to use a flame to help melt them, to maybe get them off, and even that didn't work. WD-40 didn't work. Scraping them with my fingernail didn't work. Nothing worked. And locating a new capacitor for this was very simple. I just I went on Amazon and typed in Hunter ceiling fan capacitor, and that was pretty much it. I just matched it with the original one. This one is like 1 or 2 microfarads higher than the original one, and even now it still goes pretty slow. And that just goes to show you the decrease in quality that has come to be in these fans. So I don't even want to think about how slow it would have gone with an identical same value capacitor as the original one, because these newer Hunter fans are garbage. This thing is only from 2011, and the original capacitor already crapped out. But judging by that, and the condition it was in, and how dirty it was, and the sound of the bearings, I'm gonna assume that this fan was used all the time. That's kind of how I can tell how often a fan was used, and what its life kind of looked like, is by the sound the bearings make. Kind of like an odometer on a fan. And these bearings were loud and scraping, and it's only from 2011, so that kind of tells me it was used pretty much all the time. But that's it for the Hunter Highbury fan, and I don't think I ever got a close-up of this thing, not that it matters, but it's got some scuffs. You see one right there, all that kind of wonderful stuff. The blades are reversible, so a lighter color of some sort, but I have a darker side showing. But that is all I have for this Hunter Highbury ceiling fan. And I always dim these lights because they're obnoxiously bright. And that is all for this fan.